Today we're going to be talking about one of the most iconic relay performances in American history, the men's 4x100 freestyle relay at the 2008 Olympic Games. But before we get into the details, let's take a look at some of the context surrounding that race. Prior to the 2000 Olympic Games, the American men had never lost the 4x100 freestyle relay in the history of it being swam. They were undefeated for 36 years since the event was first introduced in the Olympics. However, the Australians, who were swimming in their own home pool, had quite a strong contender for gold, and they looked to be in a tight battle with the U.S. to take the gold medal in that 2000 Olympic Games. American Gary Hall Jr., who had become a standard on American freestyle relays at the international level since the mid-90s, said in his blog that they would smash the Australians like a guitar. The American team of Jason Lezak, Neil Walker, Gary Hall Jr., and Anthony Irvin lost to a very strong Australian team. At the 2004 Olympic Games in Athens, the Americans looked to the foreigner freestyle relay to take their winning streak back. However, the field was decimated by a very strong South African relay that won by nearly 2 full seconds. The American men's relay team of Michael Phelps, Ian Crocker, Neil Walker, and Jason Lezak ended up losing a tight battle for the silver as Peter van den Hoogenband of Netherlands ran down Lezak in the anchor leg to touch for silver, while the Americans took the bronze. The Americans returned to their winning fashion in the 4x100 freestyle relay by winning gold at both the 2005 and the 2007 World Championships. However, in late 2007 and early 2008, the French had a few surprise sprinters really come onto the scene out of nowhere, including the world record holder, Alain Bernard. And the French team of Amaury Leveau, Fabien Gilot, Frédéric Bousquet, and Alain Bernard soon became the favorites to win gold at the 2008 Olympic Games. In a pre-games interview in 2008, the French world record holder in the 100 free, Alain Bernard, said, "The Americans were here to smash them. That's what we came here for." The other storyline in the 2008 Olympics was Michael Phelps' chase for 8 individual gold medals in one Olympics, trying to outdo Mark Spitz's 7 golds. And the relays were a key part of it, where he had to rely on his teammates and couldn't do it all himself. The French went with the relay order of Amaury Leveau leading off, Fabien Gilot going second, Frédéric Bousquet going third, and world record holder Alain Bernard at the anchor leg. The Americans decided to lead off with Michael Phelps. They had their top trials qualifier, Garrett Weber-Gale, going second, Colin Jones going third, and Jason Lezak on the anchor leg. In the prelim session of the relay, the American men, without Phelps and without Weber-Gale and without Lezak, broke the world record. It was an outstanding feat. And the French weren't far behind. In fact, one of their swimmers, Frédéric Bousquet, posted the fastest relay split of all time in prelims with a 46.63. Michael Phelps' leadoff split was a 47.51, breaking the American record in the 100 freestyle, and he gave the U.S. a slight lead over Amaury Leveu's 47.91. The Americans held their lead, but only just slightly. A big 47.02 split from Garrett Weber-Gale was almost matched by a 47.05 split from Frenchman Fabien Gilot. At the second exchange, the man who had the fastest relay split of all time in prelims, Frédéric Bousquet, dove in and took the lead back for the French and extended it to nearly 0.6 of a second by the time they touched the wall. Frédéric Bousquet matched his fastest split of all time with another 46.63 to Colin Jones' 47.65. At the final exchange, world record holder Alain Bernard took over for the French with a 0.6 second lead over Jason Lezak. Let's take a closer look at that 100 between Alain Bernard and Jason Lezak. Both men had fantastic relay exchanges, Bernard was a .08 reaction, and Lezak was a .04 reaction. When we're looking at tempo, in a men's 100 freestyle race, there tends to be a range of elite 100 freestylers between 1.0s and 1.1 seconds per cycle. Bernard averaged 1.04s on his first 50, and he averaged 1.14s on his second 50. But I think it's important to know that he faded from an average of about 1.10s to 1.2 plus with about 20 meters left to go in the race. Lezak had a tempo of 1.26 on his first 50 and an average of 1.36 on his second 50. He too slowed his tempo a little bit in that last 20 meters or so, but the race changed for him in a different way, and that comes down to their stroke counts. In the first 50, Alain Bernard took 38 strokes. In his second 50, he took 44 strokes. And you can see it's very noticeable that his DPS shortens up a lot in that last 20 meters. In the first 50, Lezak took 34 strokes, and in his second 50, he took 38 strokes. And what I noticed is when he slowed his tempo down, he actually increased his distance per stroke. And that's when we saw the noticeable gain on Bernard. In terms of breathing pattern, both men did the standard every other breath in the 100 freestyle. That is pretty typical racing strategy for elite men at the 100 freestyle level. The ultimate goal is to make sure that you're recycling as much oxygen as possible to keep the legs driving big towards the end of the race. But the noticeable change in breathing in general was that at about 15 meters left, Bernard had 2 or 3 breaths that were significantly longer in time than the breaths that he was taking earlier in the race, while Lezak's breath time stayed about the same. When we look at the way they split the race, Alain Bernard was out in a 21.27. That's actually 0.01 faster than the world record in the 50 free at the time, and he came back in a 25.46. Lezak was also out in a blazing 21.50, and he came back in a 24.56. Now, we don't often see men going out under, at that point, we hadn't often seen men going out in under 22 seconds in the 100 free, so both of them took it out very quickly. The biggest difference between Alain Bernard's 21.27 and Lezak's 21.50 is Lezak swam right on the lane line, trying to draft off of Alain Bernard. And I think that made his 21.50 effort-wise feel much easier, much smoother for him, so he had more to come back on. Meanwhile, Alain Bernard was breaking his own water the whole time, fighting every meter for that 21.27, and it cost him dearly as he started to get tired in the end. I think that those 2 or 3 breaths that were a little bit longer were a result of his muscles being oxygen starved because he had put so much energy and effort into that first 50. And because those breaths were longer, his tempo slowed. And because his tempo slowed, he lost a little bit on his catch and he wasn't pulling as much water, and it enabled Lezak to go by him. Lezak got his hand on the wall first, touching 0.08 ahead of Alain Bernard, but Lezak's 46.06 split was the fastest of all time by nearly 0.6 of a second over Frederic Bousquet's 46.6 earlier in the relay. And it really wasn't like Bernard had a slouch split. He posted a 46.73. He was the 3rd fastest split ever with his time. In interviews after the game, Lezak talked about how he had some doubt getting up on the blocks. He knew what a great swimmer Alain Bernard was. He knew he'd have to have a great swim to catch and pass him and get his hand on the wall first. And he said even during the race, he was having negative self-talk. He was having doubts, and he had to talk over it. He had to put that out of his mind and just focus on racing. And I think that's the biggest takeaway that we can take from this race is you may get behind the blocks with self-doubt in your head. You may get into the race and it's not going the way you want it to go. But if you can turn off that negative self-talk and just think about your racing and just making sure that you're executing your racing strategy, you never know what's going to happen. You could get your hand on the wall first with the fastest relay split of all time and an Olympic gold medal.